Joining us is the Director of Policy at the Institute of Public Affairs, Gideon Rozner. Gideon, good morning to you. So over to you. What's your take here this morning, given everything that's been said?
Well, look, I think this is the most dubious moment for the Australian Constitution since 1975. This is unbelievable that something like this happened. For a Prime Minister to bump off or usurp sitting ministers in the middle of the night without telling the Australian people, without putting it in the Government Gazette, without telling the Parliament, without telling the Cabinet, and without even telling the ministers themselves. This is something that should really alarm the Liberal Party in particular, and Andrew Bolt is absolutely right. They should be ashamed. And I think it's time for the Liberal Party to consider expelling Scott Morrison, and even if it means making him sit on the crossbenches in disgrace. The standard you walk past is the standard you accept, as the old saying goes, and the party of liberalism cannot be seen to be condoning implicitly this fundamental breakdown in the basic norms of liberal democracy.
How much has Scott Morrison's Prime Ministership been tarnished?
Well, I think this just punctuates a prime ministership in which the rights of Australian citizens and our rights under a liberal democratic country were upended, especially during the pandemic. I mean, don't forget, this is a prime minister who made it a criminal offence for Australians to re-enter their own country. This is a prime minister who suspended Parliament. This is a prime minister who failed to protect the integrity of our federation by standing by while borders were closed and families were separated for years on end. This doesn't necessarily surprise me, but what does surprise me is the extent of it and the shamelessness of it.
And, I mean, I put this question to Susan Lee a short time ago, but how much is the current opposition, the former government, being hit by the shrapnel here? I mean, is there a stench of the former Morrison government that will now apply to the current opposition, or will that not be the case?
Look, it depends on what the Liberal Party does. Can they get a clean break? Can they signal that, given that most of them didn't even know this was going on, can they condemn it after the fact? I think they absolutely can, but that window is changing, especially because Morrison's explanation was so woefully inadequate. I mean, you can't just do this and say, oh, well, look, you know, it was a difficult time and lots of paperwork was flying around and I can't even remember what I signed. That is not good enough. Our system is supposed to withstand difficult times. Our system is supposed to provide stability when big events are going on. This is not acceptable in any time, not least of all during Corona, when our system should have been protecting the rights of Australians and the democratic norms that ultimately it snuffed out.
Should the Governor-General be in the clear?
Look, I think the Governor-General has a lot of questions to answer here. Did he ask questions? Did he think it was unusual that ministers were being sworn in this case power being centralised in the Prime Minister without putting it in the Government Gazette, for example? I mean, even if it was legal, this was not in the spirit of the Australian Constitution and the democratic traditions we inherited. Well, I think the Governor-General has to come up with a better explanation, or his position will become untenable.
Yeah, I was just going to jump in there. Sorry, but people have leapt to the defence of the Governor-General today. Several people, in fact, from both sides have said, well, he was just simply doing what the Prime Minister had asked him to do. Does that wash?
Well, look, the big selling point for the constitutional monarchy and retaining it, that we hear all the time, is that it offers stability, it offers this check against untrammelled government power, and that theoretically is all very well and good. But in this case, the system failed to stand up for the most basic of democratic norms. If we are to preserve the integrity of the office of the Governor-General, we have to do something to bolster confidence in it and to explain why this was allowed to happen and how this was allowed to happen. We need to get a lot more from the Governor-General's office than we've gotten so far, rather than, oh, well, it's up to the government of the day, nothing to see here, not my problem.
So if you want Scott Morrison expelled from the party, what do you think should happen to Malcolm Turnbull?
Look, there's always been talk of expelling Malcolm Turnbull from the Liberal Party, and the New South Wales division of the Liberal Party would be well within its rights, I suppose, to expel Malcolm Turnbull. But ultimately, when Malcolm Turnbull goes and bashes the Liberal Party to Laura Tingle on the 7:30 report, he really only embarrasses himself. This has embarrassed the Liberal Party in a fundamental way. As you said, it leaves a dark stain on the Morrison government, in fact, on 9 years of coalition government. This is about drawing a line in the sand, and it is about the Liberal Party signalling that what went on was absolutely unacceptable, and under a Dutton government it will never, ever, ever happen again.
Gideon Rozner, good to have you with us. We'll talk to you soon.